All right, Joel, ordinarily not a lot of headlines in the January PGA Tour events, but when Tiger's coming back, it's a big headline. And, of course, when he's coming back at Torrey Pines, you expect things to happen, although it didn't happen for him when he came back last year at Torrey Pines.
Yeah, last year he struggled, no question. Missed the cut by several shots, although so did a lot of other big names. But this year feels a little bit different. He definitely feels and seems a little bit I don't know, just a little bit more pep in his step, a little less stiff, and a little bit more Tiger-ish, dare I say. I mean, his swing is definitely shorter. It's more compact. He's definitely bulked back up. He looks robust. I mean, it looks a little bit different. It feels a little bit different than last year, but once again, we have to be careful from not getting ahead of ourselves because the Hero World Challenge in December is a no-cut event. There's not a lot of pressure. It's only 18 guys. You know, he played well in that the prior year, then came out to Torrey, shot 76, 72, missed the cut, and then jet set across the Atlantic Ocean and ended up most likely injuring his back in a long plane ride, and then shortly thereafter his season was over. So I don't think that's going to happen this year, but we do have to be careful and not expect him to, like, all of a sudden contend out of the gates or something.
And what's interesting is the Vegas odds makers, who still have Tiger as a 15-1 shot to win the Masters this year, actually do not have him making the cut this week.
Yeah, it's funny. His odds, I saw that. His odds are better to miss the cut, yet he's either the fifth or sixth betting favorite of the week if you just look at the overall odds to win. Now, it's kind of, I guess they're thinking a feast or famine thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they're also looking at the fact that he gets so much betting action, of course, that they're just lowering the odds to offset the liability. But he has won there 8 times, no question. He loves Torrey Pines. He's won the tournament 7 times in the 2008 U.S. Open, the other victory there. But to have him win out of the gates is it's just a fairy tale. It'd be great for sports and golf, obviously, but for him just to make the cut and float around the top 25 would be a big story in itself. So I think that's kind of the best case scenario for Tiger this week.
So let's remind people, 106 professional wins for Tiger over his career, but no wins now going on 5 years for this guy on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, he won 5 times in 2013, did not win a major, has not won a major since that 2008 U.S. Open 10 years ago at Torrey. Really, since 2013, it's been a sharp decline. You know, in 2013, when he won those 5 events, he was still the Tiger. He wasn't, he didn't win majors, but he was still winning regularly. And then the injuries started to set in as he got in his upper 30s, and, the game took a pretty sharp decline. And not only has he been injured the last couple of years, but he's been fighting things like the chipping yips. Like the last 2 years, the limited action we've seen, Tiger has had the chipping yips, which is something we never saw from him, not even in the slightest in the prior 15, 16, 17 years we had watched him, which was just shocking. From what we saw at the Hero, it seems that he had gotten past those, but you put the pressure on down the stretch or maybe even just Friday afternoon to make the cut, and he has a chip from a skinny lie, and is he going to chunk or blade it? I don't know. I guess we'll see, but he's definitely not the same Tiger, but he does seem to be recharged at least a bit.
And that 2008 U.S. Open victory, Torrey Pines, was that memorable one against Rocco Mediate where Tiger was obviously hobbling around the course that day. Yeah,
well, broken leg, hopped up on who knows what medication-wise, but somehow he was able to get it done. That is one that I won't forget anytime. I don't think anybody will forget anytime soon. Amazing victory, and had to go one extra hole from the actual playoff on that Monday to get it done, but finally closed the deal on that first playoff hole. That was memorable, no doubt.
And Tom Brady, after winning the AFC Championship, kind of referencing that tournament and other times when Tiger has not exactly been at the top of his game, but still won, as Tom was referencing his hand injury. And so even Tom Brady now is bringing Tiger Woods back into the discussion as Tiger gets ready to make his debut this year.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Go way back to 1996 and 97 when Tiger first came on tour. Tiger used to talk about how he would have a C game, or I won with my B game this week, and that got a lot of. Imagine if social media had been around back then, but that got a lot of press back in the day. It's kind of funny how Brady brought that out, but they're similar age. They've accomplished great things, obviously, and I thought that was kind of funny to allude to golf in that moment.
When we talked a couple of weeks ago, you said you thought Rory McIlroy was going to have a big, big year in 2018, and he tied for third in Abu Dhabi, and we'll talk more about that tournament in a little bit. But Rory said after the tournament he's in a much better place right now, and he looked good, shooting 65 on Saturday and 2 under on Sunday.
He played extremely well in that tournament, drove it really, really well. Iron game was pretty sharp. I saw him miss club a couple times. One time in particular on Saturday, he airmailed a green in a par 3 and actually had to hole like a 20-footer from the fringe just to save a bogey after leaving it in the bunker. But that was just a little bit of rust. I think that'll come back quickly. His putting was pretty good for the week. So I think he's poised for a big season. He seems to be healthy, which is the biggest thing for him. Also, he mentioned actually a couple weeks ago that he has a little bit of a heart issue, which is interesting. It sounds like he has somewhat of there's a medical term for it, but basically some sort of an irregular heartbeat. But it doesn't sound serious. It sounds like he just has to go back and get it checked up on with a little bit of frequency. But assuming that what he's told the press is if that's not an issue, and assuming he's healthy, which he sure appears to be, he seems extremely motivated and seems to be really dialed in. And I think that T3 is just a sign of what's to come. I think he's going to start winning tournaments again really soon. This
is a guy who was winless last year, dropped to 11th overall in the world rankings, but is going to play a lot of golf. Starting with Pebble Beach next month, he's going to play 3 straight tournaments. So he is going to play a lot of golf as he gets ready for the Masters.
Yeah, and a lot of golf, a lot of golf stateside, which is great because this week, the last he played in Abu Dhabi, this week he's playing on the Euro Tour again, and then he comes stateside, and like you mentioned, he starts with Pebble and then goes from there. So it'll be great to see him over here kind of finishing up the West Coast swing and then going to the Florida swing, kind of gearing up for Augusta shortly after that. And that's the one that has evaded him so far. He needs Augusta to close out the career Grand Slam. Not sure this will be the year to actually take home the green jacket, but he is definitely doing everything he can to peak his game at the right time.
2 weeks ago, we talked about Dustin Johnson and the phenomenal start he's off to, and he's the number 1 player in the world, but he's got a number 2 guy, a new one behind him, and that's Jon Rahm now, who is past Jordan Spieth after winning the Career Builder Challenge at PGA West, although he struggled on the par 5s, but did win on the 4th playoff hole now to overtake Spieth now and become the number 2 player in the world.
Yeah, Jon Rahm, number 2 player in the world. Rewind back a year ago, actually this week, he had never even won on the PGA Tour. He had actually only played in, I don't know the exact number, but at the time, had only played in like probably less than 15 events or so. Wins on the PGA Tour, and then just goes on a run of top 5s galore. He finished that back-to-back WGCs actually in Mexico. I think he was T3rd, and then he was runner-up to Dustin Johnson in the match play. Kept on a hot run of top 10s. I think he was T2nd at Colonial, and then cooled off a little bit in midsummer. And actually, amazingly, Jon Rahm, number 2 player in the world, guess how many top 20s he has in majors in his career? 0.
Yeah.
The guy's never finished in the top 20 in a major. That'll change pretty soon. But he had a great playoffs run. He was the top 10 every event in the FedEx Cup playoffs last year, and then, was runner-up in Hawaii at the Century Tournament of Champions to start the year, and then won this past week in that playoff over Landry. So 2 victories. It's kind of funny for a guy with 2 victories to pass up Jordan Spieth, who has multiple majors and 10 career victories, but it just shows the World Golf Rankings is really weighted towards what have you done for me lately, basically in the last 12 or especially the last 6 months. Amazing stretch for him, and I don't see him cooling off anytime soon.
So Rahm's now number 2 in the world, and we're about 8 months away now from the Ryder Cup already in France. And so Rahm's playing well. And then you talk about Tommy Fleetwood winning in Abu Dhabi, that same tournament where Rory got 3rd. And then at the same time, you get Sergio winning in Singapore. These guys are all on the European Tour for the Ryder Cup. And so right now, Team Europe's looking pretty good for France.
It's a scary thing. And then add in Justin Rose, who, could not miss basically in November on the European Tour. He won 2 out of 3 events, and had a couple other strong finishes too. Henrik Stenson, who is just basically the Swedish Terminator. He never, even with a torn meniscus, the guy still had a good season last year, and he finished in the top 10 last week in Abu Dhabi. Paul Casey, who is 15th in the world, is poised for another big year. And then a guy that doesn't get a ton of press, but who's extremely consistent, especially on the Euro Tour, is Tyrrell Hatton. He's number 19 in the world. So they are really shaping up. I don't want to discount the U.S. team, who has more players actually in the top 10, but the Euros definitely are off to a really good start for 2018. And being a Ryder Cup year, that's a little bit scary, no doubt.